For many years now, my spirit has been fed by poems and short writings by Jalaluddin Rumi, the Sufi mystic. But lately I've read a few articles discrediting particular translations of Rumi's work, particularly by Coleman Barks, whose work comprises most of my Rumi library. Some of the criticism, and none of this is really new, notes that a lot of the translations of Rumi's work are more of an interpretation done by people like Barks who do not know or read Persian or are not immersed in Sufism or Islam. In particular, some critiques noted the erasure of Islam from these translations or misrepresentations of Rumi's writings, especially those embraced and adapted by a certain niche of the self-help movement. Not being a scholar of ancient Persian poetry or an expert on the history of Islam or a translator, I felt a little squeamish about making this poem from one of Barks's collections, no less, the center of my presentation today. I did, however, and I know this is a long intro, but I just wanted to set a stage. I did, however, practice due diligence and Googled any references to this poem being problematic and found nothing. So I'm going ahead and sharing it today. And even though some or all of it may be suspect, whoever wrote it originally has given us a gift, a wisdom offering, and a set of words to inspire us and take into our hearts. This poem is called The Guest House by Jalaluddin Mavlavi Rumi. This being human is a guest house. Every morning a new arrival, a joy, a depression, a meanness, some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all, even if they are a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture. Still treat each guest honorably. He may be clearing you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice, meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. Be grateful for whatever comes, because each has been sent as a guide from the beyond. This being human. This being human asks a lot of us. And yet, teachers like Pema Chodron remind us that even so, we are capable enough to do all we can to open that door and meet whatever we find there as welcomingly as possible, to being fully and lovingly and incompletely sometimes human. These months of pandemic, political unrest, campaign shenanigans, and economic instability bring us face to face with every aspect of our human condition for good and for ill. We face it on a daily basis, and it can be exhausting. And it's not like these things weren't there before the pandemic and lockdown, before the political and societal landscape erupted. We are, though, experiencing this being human more viscerally than ever, I think. Strengths and failures, possibilities, challenges, wickedness, vulnerabilities, corporate greed, immorality, unfairness, violence, and racist policing are all there. We see it, and we take it in. But there is also goodness and generosity, selflessness, courage, refusals to be silent in the face of injustice, and even the creation of positive vibes and the spreading of good cheer and good humor and generous cheer. You can find it, it's there. Like in everyday people, it's there. There's a sense of unity despite the bad news and divisive political wrangling and half-truths and lies. There's a deeper understanding of our connections, which runs so deep that we cannot ever see it, It is our interdependence made real. And even if things feel like they're getting back to normal for some of us, we are still in the middle of this pandemic. And I'm sorry I talk about it every week, but it's there. And like, if we can call it the middle of something that seems to have no clear end in sight, which is part of the problem. And maybe given the need for physical distancing from one another, you're feeling a little out of touch socially and personally and emotionally. Or on the flip side of that, if you've been staying home, remaining in place with one or more other people day after day, hour after hour, you're longing for more space and more time apart. Whatever our situation, we feel unsettled by all that is happening. It's been a time of loss and sadness, of worry and uncertainty. The life and loss goes on, as we heard, in our joys and sorrows, with grief and concern for far off people and those close to heart and home. And we're struggling through calamitous events with ambiguous outcomes. But this is our lot. This is our being human. Rumi's Guest House and the poem from Mark Nepo I offered for our meditation and the reading from Pema Chodron remind us again of this practice of welcome, of hospitality, of compassion. Most often we think of hospitality as an external exercise, like putting out the welcome mat for guests, welcoming the stranger, practicing radical hospitality, and working at being more accepting of differences, and practicing compassion for others in difficult times. But today I am asking us to turn a bit inward, to look within, to find and practice hospitality and compassion for ourselves, to recognize that stranger within, that part of ourselves that maybe is unsettling or disturbing or awkward, the part of us that needs healing or simple acceptance or even forgiveness. Become comfortable with recognizing where we sometimes have struggled with life and are embarrassed or shamed by our failures. Admitting how we fear all that is unknown, how we long for a return to normal when there is no consensus on what normal was or is, or if indeed that is even possible now. Turning inward and opening the door to ourselves. When we return to meeting in community, face to face, maybe even hand in hand someday, we know that it won't be the same as it was before. In some cases, it better not be. Perhaps the greed and inequity, the exhaustion of our bodies and the depletion of our spirits, the disconnection and confusion and rage and hoarding and hate and lack of resources that characterize a lot of society before COVID-19 will no longer be tolerated. We will be strong enough to face this and combat it. But before we get there, kind of jumped ahead of us. Before we get there, we need to take care of ourselves. You know, it's like the old airline advice about putting your oxygen mask on first, back when many of us used to travel. But putting your oxygen mask on first means you're ready to take care of others. We take care of ourselves so we can be ready to recognize and welcome this new normal, whatever form it comes in. A joy, a depression, a meanness, some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all, yes. Meet them at the door. Maybe not laughing. Maybe not invite them in yet, but meet them at the door. We must welcome all of this, as alien as it may seem, because our lives, as they always have been, are full of great unknowns. Even before this pandemic reared its fearful head. And our lives have been and are still inundated with plans and schemes and schedules. So this being human means we must learn to balance out those plans with a healthy sense of flexibility, to open ourselves to the unknown and face whatever is at the door. Perhaps our expectations, goals, and aspirations have shifted some in the pandemic. Perhaps they've been upended totally. Many of us may be facing financial concerns or health or family issues that we had not anticipated 6 months ago. The things we thought we were after, the goals we had lined up, the plans that were penciled in may no longer be possible. So much has changed. So what are we seeking now? Maybe it's not making a new plan. Maybe it's not creating a brand new scheme. But I think now we are invited to a great experiment. A great experiment with accepting and letting it all be revealed to us in this new voyage. Perhaps in the unexpected encounter, happy or sad, easy or difficult. And I do acknowledge that perhaps loss has taken too big a chunk out of our spirit, and grief may overwhelm us. And things may be feeling small and tight and maybe even mean. It's easy to feel helpless and constricted and lost and closed off. Yet we can open the door a crack and find beauty and joy and peace and love right there outside on the doorstep. The ones who can find whatever it is, success, peace, love, wisdom, happiness, contentment, those are the ones who have not given up the search. It's not all there yet, but they haven't stopped looking. We change tactics, perhaps. We shift our sights, adjust our expectations, but we keep on. The life we seek isn't somewhere over there in some future time of bliss and contentment. It is at our feet. It is outside our door, at our door, or it may be hidden deep within. And maybe no amount of searching and guessing and scraping is going to reveal the wisdom or that love that we continue to seek. But we keep on. We open the door a bit more and then close it and then make a commitment to open it again. All along the way, experiencing the fullness of life, being open to whatever comes next, ready to welcome the unknown, even if they are a crowd of sorrows. Seems like I'm preaching a lot of the same things every week, but I have to keep going on with it because we have to keep going on with it. We may struggle to muster some hope for a positive, life-affirming outcome for our society or our country. But we now especially need to accept and develop this need to keep opening the door, even if we don't know what's there, or we fear or suspect what might be there to greet us. Because so much is hanging in the balance right now, so much that will shape the future of our world. So as I think of this, and it sounds like an awfully heavy burden to lay on you all, but as I think of it, it isn't so much what we do right now, but how we are and act in the world. Our attitudes, intentions, emotions, reactions, how opening and welcome we can be to truly accepting this being human. I do believe that is what will have a huge impact on the rest of society. How we are in the world, not what it is we have to do next. Be happy, be sad, be discouraged, be hopeful, but know that you are loved as you are. No need to seek perfection at a time like this. These difficult days aren't going to make us better people just because we can withstand them. We are getting through this, by keeping ourselves and one another spiritually and emotionally strong and as whole as best we can. Really, there isn't extra time to do this. There is only now. As Mark Nepo says, and he was dealing with cancer at the time, my efforts now turn from trying to outrun suffering to accepting love wherever I can find it. This requires a great amount of trust. It means opening your arms wide to whatever the universe has to offer, ushering in that unwanted guest. It means welcoming what we may find within ourselves that is strange, alien, or unwanted. Stripped of causes and plans and things to strive for, I have discovered everything I could need or ask for is right here in flawed abundance. We cannot eliminate hunger, but we can feed each other. We cannot eliminate loneliness, but we can hold each other. We cannot eliminate pain, but we can live a life of compassion. Searching for love and contentment and peace in a sometimes hostile world of trouble, it may seem exhausting to imagine that we are holding this diversity party in our living rooms all day long, every day until the end of time. But that is who we are. And we will keep opening those doors over and over again, little by little. We will tap into that reservoir of inner strength and courage that we never knew we had. Those deep wells of compassion and strength and love that will feed us through all of this, in the midst of it all, whatever the future will be. We have the capacities to make a life in it, to explore this being human in new ways. Truly, each experience or person or feeling that we welcome holds some bit of knowledge, learning, understanding, and wisdom for us. Opening the door as wide as we can, welcoming as best as we can, we can build a life of compassion and grace, one filled with peace, and maybe more love than we can ever imagine. And so we close this service in gratitude for the life we share, for all of it, every meanness and every blessing, every fear and every act of love and courage. Our closing hymn comes to us from the Gray Hymnal, number 128, For All That Is Our Life, brought to us with compassion and grace and beauty by Jerry Brown and Jonathan Long.